Hello and welcome to Lessons Learned with Sean Buchanan. We are here for episode number 3, which we're going to be talking about goals and the SMART principle. Now, before we do that, let's just have a recap of what we spoke about in episode number 2, where we talked about the end of year audit. And in that end of year audit, we looked at some categories that we're going to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, and we're going to see where we were. We wanted to look at reality and see where we were with regards to achieving our goals for 2023 and how we can potentially move forward with the same goals or make changes if necessary. As going into today's podcast talking about goals, we're going to break down these categories again, because if you didn't do that audit, that's fine. But if we're going to go into the goal setting process, we want to rank those categories, rank them on a scale of 1 to 10, and then set some goals in and around them all, if not, to make it a lot easier, around 1 or 2 that we really want to work on. And it can be whatever the lowest rank is, or just what you really want to change in 2024. So let's recap on what we did there. We've got 8 categories that we can choose from. Last week I talked about 4, but I'll give you 4 others. And you can write this down if you like. So we've got friends and family, we've got significant other, personal growth, fun and leisure, home environment, career, money, and health. Now, we spoke about health, money, career, and relationships last week, but there's those 4 others that you can rank on a scale of 1 to 10 to see where you're at. Now, that's exactly what you do, and we call it the wheel of life. So it's in a circle, and we draw a line from 1 to 10 between the spokes of the wheel. And what it generally shows us is when we do this activity is that our wheel is never aligned perfectly. There's some things in our lives that are really good. There's some things in our lives that need a lot of work. And this is where this goal setting process comes into it. So you don't need the wheel of life, but you do need to work through those categories to find out where you are and see what the reality is. So all you need to do is write a heading for each of those 8. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being amazing, don't need to change anything. 5 being, yep, okay, you can rank them or rate them. Now, once you've done that, you can circle the 2 that need the most work to be worked on, right? Now, it doesn't mean that you have to choose those ones to work on the goals specifically for you in 2024. Again, you can choose all 8 to write goals for, or let's work on 1 to 2 that you really want to change in the new year. Could be health and career, could be fun and leisure and friends and family. Okay, so choose 1 or 2, as it will make the goal setting process a lot easier, because when we set goals, we don't want to set 100 goals. We want to really focus in on some very specific goals and really see which one of these goals we can hit that's the lowest hanging fruit. So which goal is going to send a bit of a ripple through the rest of those 8 categories, or could potentially. So that's the first thing, nice and simple. 8 categories, rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. Find 1 to 2 that you want to work on. Doesn't have to be the lowest. And then from there, we're going to look at the goal setting process to set some goals for 2024. Now, before we get into the what, the why, and the when, the 3 W questions that are going to help us progress through to these goals, let's go through this principle, the SMART goal principle. Now, this is something that I taught not only as a teacher in the last 3 years to certificate 3 and 4 students, but also to my clients as well. Or at least I took them through this process and had this in my mind when we were setting goals for them, for their health. Now, the SMART goal principle is an acronym, SMART, and this is what it stands for. The S stands for specific. So our goals need to be specific. So what will you achieve? At the end of the time frame, what will you tick off on your whiteboard and say, yep, I've done that. Now let's move on to the next thing. So what will you do? Now, very importantly, it needs to be specific. The unconscious mind is like a child. The unconscious mind makes up 94% of our decision making and things and what we do, our habits, our beliefs, our identity, etc. So it's like a child. It needs direction. If you didn't have goals that you wanted to set or that you set, you would just stay put in the same place. More than likely. Now the second is M, measurable. So how will we know that we've achieved the goal? What metrics will we use to know that we've actually achieved it? Okay, a lot of different metrics that we can use. For example, in health, okay, you might want to lose weight, so you might use a scale. You might use measuring tapes. You might use, trying on different clothes. Okay, what metric are we going to use to actually get to the goal? We've also got A, achievable. Are you sure that you can do it? Do you have the right skills, the right resources to be able to achieve the goal? Do you have the right people around you to be able to achieve the goal? Circle of influence is a strong indicator of whether or not you'll achieve your goal. Is it relevant? Does it align with your purpose and what you actually want? Or have you seen somebody do something and you just thought, wow, that looks cool. I want to do that. Okay, is it relevant to you? And how will it matter to you when you actually get the result? Once you tick that box, will you feel will you feel proud about it? Or will you just be like, oh, yeah, that's all right. Lastly, time bound. What's the deadline to accomplish the goal? And it's not only to accomplish the goal in the long term, okay, at the end of the 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, end of the year, 2024 into 2025, it's also during the days and the weeks that you're actually working towards this goal. So what day, what time are you going to do the activities week to week to help you get to the goal? Okay, comes back full circle to that specific. So that's the SMART goal principle. Essentially, we're just paving a yellow brick road to make sure that we can achieve what it is that we want to achieve. But we need it to be specific. Specific. Okay? And that's an important part of this whole process. Now, when we go and write these goals down, so you've got your scale of 1 to 10, you've chosen your 2 categories or 1. If 1's enough for you, just choose 1. Then we have to go through the process of asking these 3 questions, these 3 W questions. So, what is the goal? What makes me want to achieve that specific goal? And when do I want to achieve it by? So, you write down these 3 W questions next to the category that you want to improve on. Now, you might have a few goals for each of those categories. So let's say, for example, health is one of your categories. You might have 3 goals that you want to achieve. Let's say friends and family, or let's say personal growth is something that you want to work on and have goals in and around. So you might have 2 or 3 goals for that category, and that's okay. Now let's use health as an example, because that's what we do, mindset, training and nutrition with regards to this podcast and what I teach. Whenever I had clients that would sit down with me and I would ask them the questions, more than not, they hadn't tried to work through the SMART goal principle before, or they hadn't tried to achieve goals in this category before. So when I'd ask what their goal is, it was always very vague. Okay, well look, I'm not going to say not always. That's the wrong thing to say. Not always, but more than not, it was very vague. For example, what is your goal that you would like to achieve in the next 12 weeks? Lose weight. Increase strength. Build muscle. Yep, those are 3 goals there. But unfortunately, those 3 goals are not specific. Those 3 goals doesn't mean anything. There's no connection to it. So let's go with the first one. Lose weight. Okay. how much weight do you want to lose? A lot of them would say 10 kilos or 20 kilos. Would go a little bit deeper and I would say, well, that's not specific enough for that category. Because it's generic, just 10 kilos or 20 kilos. So the question would be, how much do you weigh now? How much do you want to weigh? And more than not, we'll get, it's 7 kilos or 13 or 12 or, 19. Now that's specific. That's getting really right down to the nitty gritty. Same with increased strength. Okay, so where do you want to increase your strength? I don't know, in my upper body. Okay, perfect, upper body. Where in your upper body? In your arms, your chest, your back, your shoulders? Where specifically do you want to become stronger? Have you ever wanted to do push-ups before? Have you ever wanted to do pull-ups? Do you want to be strong in those things? More than not, actually, you're right. Now, very careful. I've got to be very careful as a coach because you don't want to give people the answer. You want to tell them what their goal is, and that's very important. Let's just take a bit of a side note there. Coaching is about helping people find the answers for themselves. If I tell somebody what their goal should be, or what their goal is going to be, and they don't own it for themselves, more than likely, they're not going to take the actions to achieve it because it's not theirs. They don't own it. That's a very important thing to remember when you're trying to write down your goals. Sometimes you might think, well, I don't know what I want. Maybe I should ask somebody, go on social media. What is that person doing? What is this person doing? And yeah, you can draw inspiration and admire those people for doing those things. But if it's not your goal, if it's not something that you've come up with for yourself and is purposeful to you, you're potentially not going to do it. Okay, so those are two examples there. Okay, getting very specific about what the goal is. Okay, using numbers for that particular category anyway. Now, let me give you an example for doing this podcast. I've got a 90-day plan set for 2024. And for the Lessons Learned podcast, I need to do one podcast a week. Okay, imagine if that was my what. Okay, one podcast a week. Cool. But I've gone further and I've written down I need to do 13. I've gone on the calendar and I've counted how many podcasts I need to do in the 90 days from 1st of January to the 1st of April. It's 13. Okay, in my head, there's 13 podcasts that I need to do. And I'm going to tick it off on my whiteboard here every time I do it, counting down. Okay, so specific, not just I want to do a podcast until April. For my 90-day plan, I want to do 13 podcasts, specific. Okay, so when we look at the what category, when we're going through those goals, we need to really dig down and find exactly what we want specifically and use numbers with dates as well. Okay, what? And you can use it for any of those categories. Now, the why do you want to achieve those goals? It takes a lot longer. We talked about this in the last podcast when we said there's a number of ways that we change. Okay, here's a few of them. We will change if we're educated enough to change. Okay, big one, education. We will change if we're inspired enough. And what comes into play when we're talking about the why, we will change if we're in enough pain to move away and make a change, or we're making a change to move towards pleasure. Now, we tend to move away from pain more than moving towards pleasure. Now, everybody's different, but mostly moving away from pain. So that's what we're going to get to when we talk about the why. Okay, we need to dig deep on the why. Now, let me give you an example. As a PT, a lot of who I trained, they wanted to lose weight. Okay, fat loss was their main goal, the general population that I was training. And what they would say when we really drilled down on their what, okay, 13.5 kilos. Okay, I want to lose X amount of body fat, and really got specific. When I asked the question, what or why are you wanting to achieve these goals? The answer would usually be, look good, feel good. Look good, feel good. Now, unfortunately, that's not enough pain to make somebody move, especially move consistently over a long period of time. We know in the fitness industry or in the health space, people go through recurring weight loss journeys over and over again. Now, I'm not saying that because you're not in enough pain, but that's a good start. And for when things get tough or when people start to fall off the horse, okay, we can bring them back to this why. So what I would ask these clients was, okay, look good, feel good. So you say you want to look good. Tell me how you feel you look now. And I wouldn't say a word. Sit back and I'll just be silent. Tell me how you feel about yourself now. And there would be silence and there would be thinking. Because what we want to do is we want to bring out emotion. Right? Why do you want to change? Why did you come and see me? What is going to move you to achieving this goal? Excuse me, I'll just take a bit of water. And the second part of that, feel good. So you say you want to feel good. Tell me how you feel about yourself right now and where you are. Now you can use those two questions for anything, whether it's wanting to lose weight or wanting to change careers or wanting to change relationships, whatever. We need to spiral the questions to dig deeper to find out the reason why you want to actually move away from where you are. Why you want to move away from this pain. That's the purpose. Why? Now, we might do another podcast a little bit later on why, because it's a big one. It drives people to change. So, once you've got your what, once you've really knuckled down on your why, you're really dug deep, and it's hard to do so. A lot of my clients, there were a lot of tissue boxes there, a little bit of crying. Again, we talk about reality. Let's look at reality of where you are and what makes you want to change and why you want to change. What's the purpose? Then we go to the when. When do we want to do this by? Okay, so for example, me, my podcast, 90 days. 1st of April. That's when I want to be able to do 13 podcasts. That's in my 90-day plan. I've got it written on my calendar. When? I've got to write down a specific date. Not just 90 days. The specific date. What's the actual date of the 90 days? 1st of April, 2024. So when I go through my weeks, or even the days, I cross the days off. 89 days, 88 days, 87, 1 week gone, so on and so forth. 1 month gone, January finished, I've got 2 months to go. That brings the urgency for you to achieve that goal. So when is extremely important as well. Okay? Again, it gives us that urgency. Now, like I said before, when we look at the time, it's not just about when we're going to achieve the goal, it's also about where we're going to put these actions, the weekly and daily actions, consistently to achieve the big goal. Okay, now we're going to do a podcast on actions, and we'll talk about that a little bit more specifically when that comes up. But the 3 W questions: what, why, when. Excuse me. Now, once you've done that, then you can reverse engineer from when the time you want to achieve it is. Okay, reverse engineer, break it down month by month, week by week, day by day, and the actions that you're going to take. Okay, action-oriented goals or weekly goals to actually get there. Okay, now we've got a plan. Or the beginning of a plan. Sounds very simple, but what people stop or don't do is they don't action it, right? These things that we're talking about. So we go through, rank our 8 categories on a scale of 1 to 10. We choose the 2 that we want to work on, or 1 if 1's enough for you. And then we write down 2 to 3 goals that we want to achieve with that specific category in 2024. Then we go through the W's. What's the goal specifically? Why? Dig down, and then when. That's episode number 3, team. Lessons learned with Shawnee B. We'll keep it there, nice and short, nice and simple. And in the next one, we'll go through actions. Okay, how do we break down those actions over that 90-day plan, 60-day, 30-day, or however long it's going to take you to achieve that goal, or however long you feel it's going to take to achieve your goal. Have a great rest of the 2023. Do something, get out there, and get excited for the new year. We'll see you soon. Let's go.